The Observer would like to advise that the following video comes with a trigger warning. The content in this video is of a sensitive nature, so please beware that the topic of this video may trigger you. The Observer recommends that you consider your own mental health before you watch this video.
Now, okay, so you can see that? Okay, all right, okay. Which is weird because it's in the place it was the first time. So the app's definitely having some issues. Okay.
Okay. But these, I don't know how else to explain how they are. And we hosted a birthday bash for her son on his 12th birthday, I believe. And she allowed her son in her boxes, which, okay, fine, you know, we were okay with that because it was his birthday, but he was in and out of the camera playing, doing things like that. Yes, they have kids. Yes, they have kids.
I'm just gonna show you guys real quick. Like, you're all saying go to the right more. It literally is like over on this side of my screen for me. Like, it was centered and you were saying it was cutting off. So I moved it over this side and now, like, I don't know why it's doing it like that.
Can you guys see it with her as a green screen?
Be on the green screened. There we go. Okay. And you can take a screenshot if it's too small and then zoom in. Okay. All right, guys. Okay.
So, yes, they have kids. I know they said in the court documentation he has 2 kids of his own and one is disabled. They did not mention the other one at all other than he has 2 kids.
Have you ever been in their lives when they're maybe talking to like kids or anything like that? Like,
so they got a child into the agency somehow. So yes.
Wow.
And they eventually, it was brought to light that there was a child in the agency and the child was taken out of the agency. And, you know, in order to join an agency, yes, he is on the registry. If you Google his name in Allen County on the registry for them, because Indiana does it by county. So you have to go to Allen County and Google and do the search, his name there, which is Richard Harley. I believe is how I say that name.
I think it's Harrell.
Harrell?
Yeah, like Har and then Rel.
Yeah, whatever his last name is, it doesn't even matter.
And if you have kids, definitely block them too, because he's using both accounts. So don't just block his, block both. Ah!
And you can also go to my page and see all 4 of their accounts as well to block, because they do have 4 accounts. Because, you know, they need backups in case they get a nanner and things like that. So there are more than just 1 each.
Yeah, Jen, it does feel like, I mean, and there's a lot more out there than we know about or will ever know about. And like I was saying today, even just like your kids, like, please have conversations with your kids about being safe on this app, because ever since we came across that Top Bobby guy, I have been falling into lives where children are basically on live. I found one where kids were begging and these sounded like they were 13, 14 years old. And then this morning I found one where it was this guy, it was a kid, it looks like it was a teen, maybe 19 at most. laying in bed, and the other kids on the screen, they sounded younger, were telling him to show his privates and things. And it took me 2.5 minutes to get it shut down because I just sat there and like mass reported over and over again. But he pulled his shirt up at one point and was like playing with his pepperoni, is how I'm going to say that, because this app hates you being like brutally honest. And they were making schmexualized comments with that about how they were getting to certain arousals and things like that. And it's like, you know, that's the kind of stuff kids don't think about. But if a grown predator like strolls into that, like that's the kind of stuff they can find appealing.
Yes.
Because those kids are then saying schmexual things that they might record, and inadvertently someone has their voice and is doing kind of nefarious things with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm surprised about the kids being in their care too.
So I know that his current wife is the one with the kids, and they married while he was incarcerated. So she had these kids prior to him. And obviously for him to parole to her house, they had to be married.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And if you're just coming in, this man, like I'm going to emphasize it a few times, massive trigger warning. I mean, this man, he, from what we know, I don't believe he's inappropriately touched a child, but he still was found with child porn on his device. And it was both photographs of alive and unalived children, some of which did not have their bodies attached to their heads.
Yes. And from our understanding, I guess there's more court documentations. I just have not been able to find them, or people were getting them to answer questions at one point, and they said it was all schmexable, even with the unalived children.
And okay, so I'm going to read it again just because you read it at the beginning. At the trial, the government introduced evidence about how police found child porn in Harrell's office. Officers tracked an internet protocol address associated with downloading child porn to a home in Warsaw, Indiana, where Harrell, his then wife, and 3 other adults lived. Child porn videos were stored on a computer in the living room, and a forensic examination revealed that more illicit videos had been deleted or incompletely downloaded over a period of months, typically in the early morning hours. Harrell's ex-wife testified that he was often the only person up at that time of the day. And it's important to know, as Ellie pointed out earlier, he was a volunteer firefighter. So he would be up at hours that other people were not up at. And police interviewed Harrell in his home. A video recording of the interview was played for the jury, and Harrell confessed to downloading and viewing the child porn and confirmed that he usually did so in the early morning. Harrell changed his story when he testified at trial, however. On direct examination, he denied downloading the porn and suggested that another member of the household must have been responsible. He testified that he lied to a police in the interview because he wanted to be able to go home to his family. Counsel first considered challenging the sufficiency of the evidence, but rightly concludes that such a challenge would be frivolous. We would affirm the judgment so long as any rational jury could have found him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And here, ample evidence supported Harrell's possession conviction. The child porn found on the computer in the Harrell's home, his video recorded confession, the results of the forensic examination, and his ex-wife's cooperation that porn was accessed in the early mornings. So essentially, he was sentenced to 120 months and is now out, and he is on this app, is the important thing to really understand here. The tags are his and his others' accounts where he goes live on and does have access to
Yes,
interact
Megan.
with your children.
Yes, he is out. Apparently he served 10 years is what I read in the comment, which is what 120 months is. I don't believe he served the full 10 years. I heard he served 4. So with good behavior, he probably was able to get out and then do parole for the last of those years.
Yeah, and in this federal grand jury in South Bend returns indictments, it said Richard Lee Harrell, 27, of Warsaw, Indiana, and this was May 10th of 2012. So this has been some years ago, but that does not diminish what happened. I want to be very, very specific in that because, you know, we've had this conversation before when someone said, oh, well, and not to mention it happened years ago, but the fact of the matter is, people who do these things don't typically tend to change. And the fact that he has come to a child's app, even after 12 years later, and is interacting with children on the app and everything like that, is showing that there's still reason to question things and be wary. So at the time he was 27, that would put him about 39 years old now. The charges were filed as a result of the investigation by the ISP and the Bureau of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This case has been assigned to and will be prosecuted by Assistant United States Attorney Kenneth H. Hayes. So, yeah, so it's definitely beyond the 10 years that he was sentenced to serve. Yeah, RSO sheet says convicted 10/10 of 2013. Yeah, so this was when he was charged with 1 count indictment with possession of child porn.
No, he is not on parole or anything, because I did call the parole office and they said he was no longer on parole. Yes, he was released in 2020.
And I think it's important too, on the United States Court of Appeals, he was convicted after a jury trial of possessing child porn and sentenced to 120 months statutory maximum term of imprisonment. He filed a notice of appeal, but his appointed attorney moves to withdraw under, and then there's a court reference, and it says, you know, plus any history and characteristics. He had no history of violence, graduated from high school, volunteered as a firefighter, and although divorced, has 2 young children, one of whom is disabled. The nature and circumstances of this offense, he downloaded between 18 and 65 child porn videos, and the seriousness of the crime, victims depicted in child pornography have their lives demolished. Is what is in parentheses there. And so it's really bad. It's not good. They're on this app. They're allowed to come in. They're allowed to be here. And we shouldn't have to warn people, but we do need to warn people because individuals like this are relying on children to maybe not have conversations with parents. Like, this needs to be more than just a conversation of there's bad people in the world, don't interact with adults on this app. Like, even the things they do, the kids who think it's funny to make 18 plus profiles and go through and troll different people. Like, there are people on this app who will do things that kids, I don't think, can even imagine. And something as simple as an adult sending them a link and having taken that link beforehand and put it through something that will easily track, once they've clicked that link, the exact location of their IP address. It's possible. And kids need to understand that that can happen, because it's not just don't talk to people anymore. It's don't click links. Don't, go and do these things. Yeah, it's very popular with kids in the USA, and a lot of times what you'll hear people say is, oh, this is a kids app. But the reality is, the playground was once like the kids' stomping ground, and you could go, and as long as you were home by the time the streetlights came on, you were safe. But then you have all these people who are like, well, this never happens here when something bad happens. And the inevitability is, well, it does happen. You just haven't heard about it happening. And that's what's happening now, I think, with a lot of these P3dos, is that they're starting to become more brazen in what they're doing because they're not technically not allowed to be here some of the times. But when they get found out, like, they need to be called out.
Yes, they do. And the one that we will be talking, I don't know if he is still on parole, but in the next day or whatever, I need to see if he's on parole, because if he is, he shouldn't be on this app.
Yeah.
And he is out of Ohio.
Yes, and I looked at him beforehand, and you've got a picture of him and everything too in that email. And
Yes. And I don't know if I sent you like the most recent photo of him, but that was when he was first being charged. He looks obviously he was 22 then. He's 35 now. So he looks completely different than what he did there. Mm-hmm. And the one that we will be talking about in a few days or whatever, when we all had time to take a mental break from this, he would talk to little girls in between the ages of 11 and 15. I want to specify that. And he was texting them. Don't know how he got their numbers. The kids did not know how he got their numbers. And that was what worried the parents the most.
Yep.
And the mom found him on MySpace. And there's an article that I sent you on that. She found him on MySpace and she made a fake account of a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old or something. And that's how she got him in trouble, because she was working with the police.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a sad world we live in, and unfortunately,
I'm so sorry, Insane Bunny. It's a big trigger, and that's what we really warned people about tonight.
Yeah. Oh, does he really have the comments turned on both? Off on both?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's, like I said earlier today, like, what's really concerning for me is ever since Top Bobby, and why I want to start to make this part of what I do, is after Top Bobby, I started getting a lot of not P3dos, but what I would term P3do bait in my feeds. And this morning was the prime example. There was a younger gentleman on, and he may or may not have had a mental handicap. I really don't know. I didn't dive into it that much. My main priority at the time was to get the live shut down, because there were 4 or 5 younger individuals who kept begging this man, or this team, like, none of them were over 20 for sure. I think some of them sounded to be 15, 16 years old. And they were encouraging him to show his private areas, and, making conversation around, like, oh, show us that big, like, C word. And at one point he did lift his shirt up and he showed his pepperoni, and he was like touching it. And if it were a female, it would have been like, right away. It would have been taken down, like very suggestive, very inappropriate. One person kept dropping the N-word, and just over and over again, schmexual comments. Like, anyone who has like a predilection for young individuals, like, it's that kind of stuff they want, because those kids are sitting there describing schmexual activities or schmexual body parts in a way that might arouse older individuals. And yes, if you need a break, please take it. But these were kids, and we know that people like this are on this app where they've been convicted of, for instance, having child porn stored on their computer, videos and photographs. And it's something like, we talked about child safety in Petty's Live the other day, but it's more than just like making sure your kid knows like stranger danger at this point. It's making sure that if you're going to let your kids on a space like this, they do need to know that, you know, what they say can have a direct impact on how people are seeing them. The links they click can, you know, potentially give away their locations. Even if they think it's another 13, 14, 15-year-old, it could be someone else on the other end. And, you know, I know people sit here and they're like, why would kids even be here? It was a teen app originally. We invaded it. Kids came here, they posted dances, young individuals were on this app dancing. And then all of the adults started coming in, and the creepy people realized that they could get away with seeing some things. And then you got all of these groups started where you've got messy talk and you've got like after dark talk and like all of these different segments of TikTok. It's not about, in my opinion, I thought this was a kids app. It's about making sure that your child is versed enough to understand why you don't want them in certain spaces on this app and why they need to be very mindful of what they're putting out there. Because at the end of the day, that's like saying, well, you know, growing up, I used to be able to go to the playground and it was safe to stay there until the sidewalk lights came on. And now you can't even do that. Well, that's because people are opportunistic. And the second they realize they can get away with something, they're going to do it until they get caught. And then if they get caught, they're probably going to try to come back and do it again under the anonymity of things, because that's what social media provides, is the safety of the anonymous side of things. And so that's why we need to call it out. That's why we need to bring awareness to it. And it's why at the end of the day, we have to do our due diligence and ensure that kids growing up today understand that you can do everything in your power. You can tell them they're not allowed on social media, but they have to be decisive and educated in their own sense so that they can keep making those decisions to be safe as well too. I'm going to add the panels back in case anybody wants to come up. I'm going to take this down for a little bit.
And if nobody has any more questions for me, I am going to drop and take my meds and get ready for bed myself. But I'm going to stay in here.
You're good. Thank you so much for coming up, and we'll definitely talk about the other one here soon.
Yes. If you want to drop me.
Okay, thank you. If you can just comment in the comments. I don't want to let anyone up here if they accidentally requested, and just let me know why you want to come up. That way we don't have any awkward things going on. But if anybody has any thoughts, give it a minute. We can open the panel. Thank you to Allie for bringing this to me and for making it clear this person is on this app. Really important to have these conversations, and but just for anyone who's coming in and you didn't know what was going on, tonight's discussion was on Richard Harrell. He was sentenced to 120 months for possessing child porn, and it's just not the kind of stuff we want our kids falling into, finding things like that. So all due respect, we're all working on that. So please just remember, guys, It takes a village. Like, I appreciate Allie bringing this to me. I appreciate getting to be able to speak with you guys about it. And at the end of the day, like, I just hope everybody is able, because it's one thing to say we're taking them down. You can take them down, but they can come right back. So, like, just because they go away, it doesn't mean they're not coming back. They're just coming back in a more cognizant way of, how do I hide my identity, is the problem. This person we talked about tonight is allowed on social media because they're no longer on parole. So the goal here isn't to get everyone to go mass report and get them off necessarily. That would be an ideal goal, but it's also to make sure parents know, go block them from your children's accounts. For every time they get dinged, all they learn at the end of the day, this person's coming on and interacting with minors. They have no shame. They know what they did, and they're still doing something that they know most people are not going to agree with. And it's one of those things where at the end of the day, like, we could sit here and take down 5 of them, but 10 of them are going to pop up. And every time you take one down, they get smarter and they come back. And I don't even want to say smarter. They get stupider in some sense of the word, but they come back and they're able to hide themselves a little bit better, because then they know, okay, use a fake name. Don't give out my identity if they did that the first time. Don't show my face so people don't know who I am, that kind of stuff. And it becomes harder and harder. Yeah, and it's just like, when we talk about beggars, look at Beth Osborne. Her accounts get taken down and she created Lisa. They get taken off and they create 10 more and tell everyone to go follow them so that they've got them if something happens. And in the process of trying to take them down, there's 10 more beggars introduced into the scene. So it's not that you're ever going to be able to stop everyone, but we can bring awareness. And like I said, I know it's hard. I know we didn't necessarily have to have these conversations growing up, because I grew up at the dawn of AOL and things like that. And I remember, stranger danger and stuff, but it's different now. You have to tell your kids what to watch, to not say certain things or do certain things, or why you want them to be safe on this app and not make fake profiles and pretend they're over their age or things like that, in a different aspect, because these people are now, easily capable of recording a live and then keeping it for forever and pushing it around the internet. We had experience one time where someone took photographs off my mods' TikToks and were posting minor children, and they didn't care that they were posting the minor children. They didn't care who saw it. And then, you've got people where Rin Eleanor is posted on this app, and she's doing very adult things, which is fetishized for many people, as this little baby or this little girl is doing these adult things like shaving her legs and stuff, and it turns them on and arouses them. And Rin's mom just never seems to care. And she knows, Rin Eleanor's mother knows what she's doing. And it's sad. It's sad that profile never gets taken down, really. It's sad that there were so many men commenting on it being super creepy. And the last I checked was a couple months ago, and she had posted some stuff. Yeah, because if you think about it, she posted one video once of her daughter putting on deodorant. And it doesn't seem like a bad thing, so this app's not flagging it. But the comments are absolutely disgusting. Rin Eleanor. And So to that extent, this is something I definitely want to start bringing to light more, especially after Emily Emo Beast Jack and just diving into the wormhole that is him, because I think we've all seen how bad it can get. And there are some people on this app who just lack basic decency and respect. Yeah. I can't believe any mother would encourage. Whoa, what? Excuse you? We weren't talking about that. Why did you just come in here and make a comment like that? That's no. Mm-mm. Why you made an inappropriate comment about a topic we weren't even discussing? We were literally just talking about a P3 on this app. We are not talking. No, we were not. Okay, who's gonna mute and block them, because that's absolutely disgusting. Right? Like, they very clearly were trying to get someone to say something. Thank you for not responding. What live are you in? Definitely not this one.
Hi, y'all. I gotta motivate myself real quick.
I don't know. I'm still confused what they thought they were going to do there. Traffic by an S Club owner when she was 17, the club sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you for listening. I wish more people would stick around and listen to messages like that. I hope that some of you will spread the word and make sure that people know. At the end of the day, we can block people, but for every one you know, there's 10 you don't. So I just really encourage everybody, have conversations with your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your sisters, your brothers. Like, make sure your kids and your relatives are being safe. Because it's not a good look. Like, when we kind of let our kids go about things and not understand what's going on, I think we try to protect them, but we really kind of help create a space where they don't understand the full ramifications of their actions. And we have to work to do better. And I think a lot of that is looking at the ways some of us grew up, especially with the ways some of us who were like the dawn of AOL grew up. I mean, like I said in Petty's the other day, don't sit here, if you grew up when AOL was coming out and you had an AIM and everything, don't sit here and act like you didn't go in the chat rooms and do the whole ASL hee hee ha ha, joking around, lying about your age stuff. Like, most people did it. We thought it was funny, and we didn't realize what we were doing at the time. And if we want to be better and do better, we have to be willing to open ourselves up to those conversations with kids and be honest with them. And, I didn't realize how dangerous it was, but today you have so much more access to the world. And the last thing I want is for something that I did in the past become something that you do now that ends up having very serious life-altering or life-ending consequences. Because regardless of what we think, kids need to know that nowadays, if you click a link, it is very easy for someone to have attached it to sort of a tracking website where they're going to be able to pick up your address. And God forbid someone click on something and then someone show up at the door one day. Like, it's worst case scenario. We say, oh, that never happens. It wouldn't happen here. But 20 years ago, that's what people said when things happened on the playground. Like, oh, or in a nice neighborhood, or a kid was abducted while riding their bike. Like, oh, that never happens around here. We're just so shocked. Well, it happens. It's just becoming more prevalent. And not even it's becoming more prevalent, it's becoming more reported. Thank you. Also, never accept free Robux. That's a huge way. Yes, and something we learned the other night was, or the other day on Petties, was if your kids are playing Roblox, make sure they're not playing house, because that's a common way that adults will get children to engage with them. Is like, evidently they'll build a house and they'll play house together, and they can be super inappropriate at that point with the child. Make sure your kid knows how to recognize, like, I there's so many things to do, but I mean, even making sure your kid knows, you know, that someone who is older and more mature might have a deeper voice, or, you know, how when you're young, your voice can sound a little bit more like this, and when you're older, it could sound a little bit more like this, so they understand, you know, when someone is talking to you and they've got a deep voice, a mature voice, like, it's hard to explain, but we know how someone who's 40 is not going to sound the same as someone who is 14. And if they're talking to somebody who sounds 40 years old, they should know, okay, I need to walk away. This person's not in my best interest. Yeah. I don't have kids, so I can't sit here and tell you, like, how to do everything. I've never been on Roblox, Minecraft, any of that. But, oh, the voice changing apps, yeah. I think even this app has stuff where you can do, like, voice effects. Like I can auto-tune it. I can put it on melodic. I don't even know what it sounds like. Soft, crisp, electronic, vintage,
Robotic.
yeah, so. Oh, thank you, Ashley. Maybe I'll look at doing like a video series or something on, or I could do a video on YouTube just kind of going over some things, because I think it's an important conversation to have, and I think there's more that even I don't know to look for. But at the end of the day, I think we try to protect the people we love by not telling them about the worst in the world. And I don't think you should tell them about the absolute worst in the world, but I think you can have conversations with them to educate them and give them a sense of empowerment in understanding that you trust them enough to want to give them that sense of control in their life. Instead of, you know, always being someone who has to tell them this, tell them that, you want them to be able to be a kid that, you know, if they know it's wrong, they know it's wrong, and they can make that educated decision as well, too. I think that's important. I I do. They're around. I've seen them. I just am not paying attention to them. I don't care. They're just trying to bait. Like, I mean, imagine being a person coming in here trolling a conversation when we literally just talked about a P3 on this app. And we're talking about child safety. They bait and I bite. Oh, thank you. I'll sit down and look at what I can do because that's definitely important. I know, but oh, that's good, Casper. Listen, I normally would respond to it, but I've just kind of learned like there's certain people on this app who want to keep the drama going and try to find any way to do it. And sometimes even just not muting them works better.
The Observer, providing you with the latest TikTok drama from across the UK.